In case you missed it, your host Kayla Blakesley is at it again. What did she say this time? Tune in to find out right now.
Northwest Indiana still digging severe storms, flooding, tornadoes, and just damage in general. And Senator Jim Banks just toured some of the hardest hit areas, meeting with FEMA, NIPSCO, and a lot of local leaders. He even got President Trump on the phone with the mayor of Gary. So to talk about what he saw, what the president said, and what Hoosiers still need to know, and whether more federal help is coming or not, we've got Senator Banks joining us live right now. Good morning, Senator.
Hey, good morning, Kayla. Good to be with you.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to start simple with what you saw firsthand, because I have seen some pictures and I've heard numbers, but you were actually on the ground in Northwest Indiana. I mean, what stuck out to you most when you saw the damage?
Well, I think what stuck out most was at that point on Monday, there were still thousands of families with no power to their homes. I visited a homeless shelter that was run by the Red Cross in downtown Gary, and the homeless shelter in the middle of the day was filled with kids, little boys and little girls playing who didn't have a home to go to because of the storms. We got some of the storms passed through our area here in Northeast Indiana, but nothing like what they got up there. I mean, they said it was like almost like hurricane type weather in the region. I mean, you see the bridges out in Carmel, and Muncie got hit really bad, but up in Gary you had a lot of old historic homes and huge trees that fell on these homes, and then you got the power companies trying to go home to home and clear out trees and debris to try to bring power back and get people back into their houses. So I visited with the mayor, Eddie Melton, and we went through kind of the plan to get people back up on their feet in Gary, and then I visited the homeless shelter. But one thing, Kayla, I know you'll appreciate, I also visited with a pastor and learned about what the clergy is doing in Gary to try to, they're providing food bank support, and even people sleeping in churches until their homes are open again. And that was an encouraging part of it, to see what the community is doing there to rebuild. And then I got President Trump. I called President Trump with the mayor of Gary, and some people might recall President Trump has a long history in Gary in the 80s and 90s, a riverboat that he owned in Gary. So he has a heart for Gary. He wanted to do whatever he could, and just about 24 hours later, he signed the disaster relief declaration for FEMA, to unlock FEMA to come in and provide direct support and aid to homeowners and families who are directly impacted. So that's the big news this morning. He signed that late last night, and that's really important for a couple dozen counties in Indiana, including Lake County and Hamilton County, that have been hardest hit throughout our state.
Yeah, that's huge news this morning, Senator. Do you have any idea in terms of a timeline and when some of that federal assistance will reach these counties?
Well, nothing is quick or easy, but this immediately unlocks that support. So my office will be working with and pushing FEMA to get the support to these people who need it the most as quickly as we can. So I don't know about a timeline, but I'm going to be pushing. I've been directly in touch with the newly confirmed FEMA administrator. Thank God we confirmed him right before we left for the recess. So he's on the job. I've been in touch, and I called on my way to Gary the other day. On Monday, I called the Chicago regional FEMA office that covers the whole state of Indiana to talk about what they're doing and to push them harder. I mean, my job is to push them to do their job and to make sure that the federal government follows through and does what they need to do, and that's what I'll be doing more of this week and beyond.
Let me ask you this, because it's my understanding you also met with NIPSCO leadership, and I'd be curious how that went, because, I mean, we had hundreds of thousands of outages. I know you know that. Some Hoosiers have gone weeks without power. Were you satisfied with, NIPSCO's explanation, if you will, of its response and restoration timeline?
Yeah, of course not. I mean, it's taken way too long. I mean, we're 2 weeks beyond the storm. Yesterday was a big day where I think we got to like the 99% point of getting almost. I mean, I think at one point 350,000 homes without power, and then we got down to around 10,000 on Monday, and I think most of those have power today. So I think we've got to. As soon as we get to a point where we're satisfied that people are taken care of, then that's when we look back and investigate and figure out what went wrong so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Well, Senator, I know you're on top of it, and you've been paying close attention. For Hoosiers who are just tuning in or listening this morning, and maybe for the us here in Northeast Indiana, we're not dealing with quite the same recovery. How can we help?
Well, that's a great question, because I met with this young pastor in downtown Gary, and he was talking about all of the support coming from Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, other communities. I would look for ways to support the food banks and the Red Cross. I love the Red Cross. Amanda worked for the Red Cross years ago. It's such a great organization, and I saw what they did to transform a rec center into a shelter for these families. So support the Red Cross. The pastor in Gary said, he asked me what can churches in Fort Wayne do to support churches and food banks in Gary. I mean, that's one thing that, talk to your pastor, talk to your church, see if you can lend that kind of support. They'll take it. They'll be happy to have it.
Well, Senator, I just so appreciate you coming on and sharing what you saw and how we can help. And I love hearing about, faith in action. Really great stuff this morning. We'll check back in with you 1 week from today.
Have a good day.
Hey, it's KB. As a show of appreciation for listening, use my promo code WOWO for deep discounts on all kinds of products at mypillow.com. That's promo code WOWO.
Podcasts by Federated Media.